This video is on angle pairs. The first angle pair that we are going to look at are called adjacent angles, and they are two angles that share a ray and a vertex. We looked at adjacent angles in our last video in measuring angles. They're the two angles that are right next to each other. So our ray is right here, and the vertex. They're right next to each other. Adjacent meaning next door or right next to. Vertical angles are two angles whose sides are opposite rays. And they form congruent angles. The vertical angles here are, I think of across. They're across from each other. And they generally form an X, but we would have angles right here, are vertical angles. This angle AED and BEC are vertical angles. They're across from each other. We also have another set of vertical angles in here, and that would be these two. I'll use two lines to identify these two. So these two are vertical angles as well. So I could say angle AED and angle BED are vertical angles, and then angle AEB and angle CED are vertical angles across from each other. Complementary angles are two angles whose measures have a sum of 90 degrees. So it's like a 90-degree angle, and it's divided down the middle by another ray, making two angles there. But complementary, meaning that they add up to 90. Or I could have two separate ones that add up to 90 as well. They're always going to form a right angle, though. Supplementary angles are two angles that have a measure of 180 degrees. Or they form a straight line. A straight angle. So this one's 100, this one's 80. We add them up together, and we get 180. So these are supplementary. We also have a linear pair, and a linear pair is a pair of adjacent angles, like we looked at before, angles that are right next to each other, and a linear pair forms a straight line. So anytime you see a straight line like this and an angle coming out of it, we call that a linear pair. They add up to 180 degrees. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is just identifying adjacent angles, vertical angles, complementary angles, supplementary angles, and linear pairs. So let's look down here. The first thing that we need to find are adjacent angles. There's a lot of adjacent angles in here. All I'm asking for you to do is find one set of adjacent angles, or angles that are right next to each other. I'm just going to start here. We could do EFA. So we could say angle EFA A and AFB. You could have AFB and BFC. You could have BFC, CFD. You could even have AFE and EFD. There's lots of adjacent angles in here. All I'm asking you is to pick one. Vertical angles are angles that are across from each other, remember? So we could have one like, and they have to, it's two intersecting lines essentially. So we could have angle AFE, and notice across from it is this CFD. These are across. They would also have the same angle measure. So if this is 62, this one right here would be 62. Complementary angles, remember those are the ones that add up to 90 degrees. So I see a right angle symbol right here. So that's going to tell me these are my complementary angles. We would have angle BFC and angle CFD. Those are going to add up to 90 degrees because we have this little symbol right here in between them. Supplementary means that they add up to 180 degrees. I see a few of these along with linear pairs as well. So I might say angle AFE and so AFE, it has to form 180 degrees, so it has to essentially be a linear pair. So AFC I could say as well. Even though that there's this line in between here, we don't have to use it. So it could be AFC as well. And angle AFC. A linear pair in this diagram is going to look the same, but I know that these two add up to 180 degrees. So I could do EFA, angle EFA, and angle EFD would also be a linear pair. They add up to 180 degrees. That's the first part, just identifying these. I know there's a lot of words used as we go through these. Have this paper handy where we can look at the different types of angles. Now let's move on, and we're going to talk about angle bisectors really quickly. And an angle bisector is going to be a ray that bisects an angle into two congruent parts. A ray that divides into two congruent angles. Or it cuts into two equal angles. They're going to be, if it bisects, it means that it's into congruent or the same. All right, one last thing that we're going to do with this is look at if I'm given angles, I can figure out, or if I'm given equations, I can figure out the angle. So it says angle LPJ and angle LPK are linear pair. Find the measure of angle LPJ and the measure of angle LPK. but all I see are expressions here. I don't see any angle measures. So like what we did before, I don't have that angle measure. But if I think about it, we do, because we have a linear pair. And if we look back, we know that a linear pair adds up to 180 degrees. So that means that these two angles are going to add up to 180 degrees. Just like we did with measuring angles last time, we add these two pieces up and they're going to add up to 180 degrees. So first we're going to solve for x. We take our 2x plus 24 plus 4x plus 36, and we know that's going to add up to 180 degrees because it's a linear pair. First thing that we're going to do is combine our like terms. We have 2x plus 4x, so that's 6x. And we have 24 plus 36 is going to be a plus 60. Subtract 60 from both sides. Those cancel out. 6x equals 120. Divide both sides by 6. 120 divided by 6 is going to be 20. So we have that part. But we're not done because we have to figure out these angle measures right here. So we go ahead and plug that x, value of x, back into there. To do angle LPJ, we have 4 times 20 plus 36, because this comes from here. 4 times 20 is going to be 80 plus 36. And we get 116. Now to figure out the measure of angle LPK, that's going to be 2 times 20, because x is 20, plus 24. 2 times 20 is 40, plus 24 is going to give us 64. Again, we can check our answer. 116 plus 64. That's going to be a 0, 10. And then we have 8 and a 1. So it checks out. It adds up to 180. All right, that concludes this video. And you can now begin your work that goes along with it.